What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today we're looking at the results of the Limitless Showdown September. This was an online event on play.limitlesstcg.com with 654 players as of round one. Best of one, 11 Swiss rounds. You have to go 9 and 2 to make it into top cut. This was a rigorous event, and we now have the final standings of it. So in this video, we're going to look at what made top cut at 9 and 2 out of 654 players, meaning that these decks had to perform pretty consistently and also be pretty strong to make it through those 11 Swiss rounds to make it to top cut. And we will take a look at the top 8 deck lists, which features 8 different archetypes. So yeah, before we get into it, shout out to all my sponsors. You can find links, coupon codes, and everything like that in the description down below. Also, if you'd like to take part in contributing to a community-made tier list, I will have a Google Forms survey link in the description of this video right at the top. Go fill out that form, read the instructions to be included in the tier list that I am helping, that I'm essentially putting out there for the community to make, and then I'm going to analyze all the data of. That survey will probably only be open for the first like 6 to 8 hours after this video goes up, so make sure you participate in that survey right away if you want to. Subscribe to this channel for daily Pokemon TCG content, and leave a like and a comment, and now let's look at some stuff here. So, the metagame, very interesting to look at as always. Out of 654 people, these metagame numbers are actually going to mean something, because it's a lot different than looking at like 50 people in an online event or 100 people in an online event. Those numbers aren't going to really be averaged out. But with this, it's a lot more interesting to look at the meta shares and the the win percentages and stuff like that. Something to note, I do think that Play Limitless events are typically skewed towards above average skill level players. I'm not saying that the absolute best players in the world all flock to Limitless events, but I'm saying the people in Limitless events typically are either good enough or they're trying to get good enough that they dedicate like a Saturday to play in one of these big events. So I don't think you're getting the super duper casuals most of the time in these events. Players either average to above average in skill level and metagaming knowledge, or players that are aspiring to get to that level, and that's why they're participating in these events. So do keep that in mind, that I do think these results tend to skew a little in favor of meta decks being a higher percentage, because there is less other and a little less rogue and a little less like theme deck shenanigans happening in these events. So Lost Zone box at essentially 20% of the meta share. Now Lost Zone box is split into roughly 2 decks, the Radiant Greninja decks and the Radiant Charizard decks. What we can do here is look at cards, and we can find that out. 0.67 of the decks, 67% of the decks played Radiant Charizard, and 32% played Radiant Greninja. So we could say about 2/3 of the decks are using Charizard as their Radiant, and about 1/3 of the decks are using Greninja as their Radiant card. And I don't think there's any other Radiants that people are using. I figured I should go and check that real quick. No, okay. So, the Radiant Charizard decks are typically going to be a lot more streamlined and look like this. Whereas the, hopefully we get a good example here eventually. Here we go. The ones with Radiant Greninja are going to have more options and more tech attackers and stuff because it's using Mirage Gate. They're going to have a different spread of energy, things like that. Okay. Now, so yeah, Lost Zone box was 20%. It had an under 50% win rate, but that's almost always going to happen for the top decks, the most popular decks, because players of all skill levels are coming together to play this essentially when you see that it's the most popular. Giratina decks. Now, there's also a range of these. I think Giratina should be playing at maximum a 3/3 line of Giratina, but I really like the 2/2 lines with Thornton like we see here. So there are a range of Giratina Lost Zone decks, but these are all Giratina Lost Zone decks. I believe that Arceus Giratina is listed separately. So again, Giratina, hot new card from the set, just under 50%. You could call that a 50% win rate. It was 278 and 277 was their record. Taking up 13% of the metagame roughly. I'm a little surprised to see that because Giratina decks are harder to play than the Radiant Charizard Lost Zone box deck, in my opinion. But a lot of people are picking up Giratina. Next, Kyurem Palkia. I would have actually guessed that this would have been the most popular deck for this event. I think Kyurem Palkia is the most solid archetype we have right now, meaning it's pretty consistent, it's pretty reliable, it has high damage output, it's essentially uncapped. It has Radiant Greninja for both draw support and usable as an attacker in the deck. It has Palkia and Kyurem, depending on which is better for prize trading, and then it also has the option to play Empoleon V, which counters Comfey, and it counters Regigigas. And it counters, a couple other niche things like Miltank and Cramorant, of course, which is involved with Comfey, and also the Luna Rocks, but again, very niche things. But mostly it counters Comfey, Cramorant. Now there are Lost Zone box decks playing things to counter the counter. They're playing cross switchers, or they're playing canceling cologne, or they're playing path to the peak. So I don't think Empoleon is necessarily always going to be in Kyurem Palkia. You could try other water attackers, or you could just try other techs or other consistency in place of that. But I think Kyurem Palkia is very, very good. And it was 10% of the metagame, almost 11%, and it had a 56% win rate, which I am not surprised by. I think Kyurem Palkia is very good. I played it. I dropped at 6-3 because you had to go X2 to make top cut, but I was very happy with the deck throughout my 9 rounds. Next is Mew Genesect at 7%. Now, again, these are going to be split into 2 types of Mew Genesect. If we look at the cards, we'll see how many played Meloetta. 80% played Meloetta. Or actually, also the Fusion Strike energies is what we could look at. 1.70, but they're playing typically 4 per deck, so that's a lot harder to average out. Oh, I'm sorry. If they're playing Meloetta, they're playing 2. So I think that would mean roughly 40% of decks played Meloetta if they're all playing 2 at a time. And then this would mean roughly 40+% decks played 4 Fusion Strike energies. Okay, I'm not going to hurt my head too much figuring that one out. But I think essentially 40%, if I'm correct here. Someone can tell me I'm wrong if they want to, but I think 40% of the decks played Meloetta at a count of 2 is what I'm taking from this. But Mew actually ended up winning the event. Spoiler alert. Mew had a 47% win rate, 7% of the meta share. I think Mew is going to be more popular than this, potentially a Peoria. I skipped right over Palkia Inteleon. Would you look at that? 56% win rate at a 10% meta share. Palkia Inteleon, let's look at this. It has roughly the same win rate and same popularity as Kyurem Palkia. Palkia Inteleon just feels bad to me a lot of times early game. You guys have seen it, like Bradner's NAIC, like take 2 mulligan draws, still draw pass type deal when you open with like Bucket being the only playable card and your active's a Manaphy. Like Palkia Inteleon opening hands feels bad a lot of times, which keeps me away from the deck. Kyurem Palkia, I don't have a lot of feels bad moments with Kyurem Palkia. And if I see these decks performing at a roughly same rate, I'm going with Kyurem Palkia every time. Hisuian Zoroark, 46% win rate. I'm not really a fan. Regigigas, 52% win rate. Some people maybe are forgetting about Regis, but there's Empoleon everywhere. Hisuian Goodra, 43% win rate. Does this count Arceus Goodra? No, this doesn't count Arceus Goodra. Where's Arceus Goodra? There it is. There's only 2 Arceus Goodras. So these are all Lost Zone Goodras. 43% win rate, and so on and so forth. So now let's look at the standings. Actually, the top cut, sorry. We want to look at the top cut metagame. So these are the decks that went 9-2 to make it into top cut, and there were 20 of them. 4 Palkia Inteleon, 3 Lost Zone Box, 2 AI, 2 Kyurem, 1 Mew, 1 Blissey, 1 Hisuian Zoroark, 1 Dialga V-Star, which we will be looking at. This list is good. Arceus Goodra, Regis, Vikavolt, Giratina, Hisuian Goodra Lost Zone without Arceus. So now we're going to look at the top 8 lists, starting at the bottom with Arceus Goodra. And I also like to look at the matchups real quick. So they lost to an AI. They lost to the same Mew twice. Mew could be tricky for Hisuian Goodra because Max Miracle goes through the effect of Hisuian Goodra's attack. It also goes through Radiant Gardevoir. So that's a problem for Goodra. I have seen Goodras playing Drapion V, and I think Drapion V could help a lot, but I wouldn't play Drapion V in Arceus Goodra, I don't think, because like you want to play you don't want to play any bad starters. This is essentially built like Arceus Duraludon, so I wouldn't play Drapion in this. I think you just take a probably unfavored Mew matchup. But other than that, let's see. It went 2-0 versus Lost Boxes, 1-0 versus Kyurem, 1-0 versus Palkia Inteleon. It also played some weird decks, though. This didn't really run through the metagame. It hit Vikavolt, it hit Arceus Mewtwo V-Union, which nobody is playing, Urshifu Inteleon, Galarian Weezing, Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX. So this deck also did just hit other, and I'm not going to say it got lucky to hit other because some decks hate hitting the riffraff. They want to hit only meta. So I'm not going to say it got lucky, but there was variance involved and it hit a bunch of weird matchups. Next is Lost Zone Goodra. Now this one I think you can fit Drapion into a little bit easier and potentially fitting metal attackers into either this one or Arceus Goodra to help with Kyurem. So this is playing Melanie, and it's playing Mirage Gate. No Fantina, but Fantina isn't necessary. It's just like an option. You could toss like one in maybe. This one's based off of Omnipoke's list. So you'll see they lost to the same Kyurem twice. Giratina can also be iffy. Do we have Big Parasol in here? We don't have Big Parasol. Oops. Where am I? I got lost. So no Big Parasol, Mirage Gate, and Melanie. And what did this beat? It beat one loss. Oh, it hit 2 Lost Boxes and hit them both. It beat both of the Mews that it hit. So maybe Lost Goodra is just better. Because it has more things to respond to an escape rope with as well. So yeah, these matchups look a little bit more like what I would expect. So I think Lost Zone Goodra is probably overall better than Arceus Goodra, but I do like Arceus Goodra. It's essentially just built like Arceus Duraludon. Then we have Marco with Lost Box Radiant Zard, the Yokohama version. Went 1-1 versus Kyurem, 0-1 versus Mew. And we have a Drapion in here. No Drapion. Wait, do we have any V Pokemon? Okay, no, we wouldn't play Drapion in this. Never mind. Some people do play Drapion, so I shouldn't say that. Went 4-0 versus Palkia Inteleon. That's very nice. Went 1-0 versus Giratina. Excuse me. 1-0 versus Goodra. And it is playing 3 Echoing Horn, 4 Cross Switcher. So all of that kind of stuff is going to really help against things like Goodra. Then we have at 5th place our Palkia Inteleon. Remember, guys, these are 8 different decks in top 8 out of 650 people. I think that's kind of wild that not two people made it into top 8 with the same deck. So let's see. We've got Palkia Inteleon here with a 4-3 line of Palkia, which I don't think I like because I don't like starting Palkia. It also plays a Crobat. It plays a Collapse Stadium, a Path, and a Training Court. The Collapse probably to get Crobat off the bench or a damaged Palkia off of the bench. It plays Choice Belt, no Big Charm. It doesn't play oh no, it does play Rare Candy. It also plays Echoing Horn, 1 Battle Pass, 3 Capture Energy. The list seems fine. I like Collapse Stadium for removing a damaged Palkia off the board. I think that's really cool. Or I guess Crobat. Yeah, seems fine. I was kind of really liking Big Charm in Palkia Inteleon. They hit a lot of AI. Oh my goodness, look at all these Arceus decks they hit. What? They hit 1, 2, 3, 4 AI in the tournament. There was hardly even 4 AI in the whole event, but they hit 4 of them. They also hit an Arc Duraludon, 2 General Arc decks. They hit 2 Arceus Duraludon. What the heck? This person hit all the Arceus. Oh my goodness gracious. So a bit of an outlier for their matchup spread across the tournament as well. Then we've got Dialga V-Star. This is Lost Zone Dialga V-Star. I'm going to open up the list so y'all can look at it. I think this is good. This deck is straight fire. This is something that like I knew. I think I shouldn't say just I knew, because I think it's obvious that Dialga V-Star can take advantage of Kyurem being heavily played, and also take advantage of Roxanne, and take advantage of Thornton, take advantage of Mirage Gate helping you with extra energy attachments per turn. Also the fact that Lost Box, like if you can take 2 turns in a row and then like make one of those turns have a Roxanne involved, that's really strong against Lost Box as well. So I think there's a lot of obvious things that make Dialga good, but it's hard to actually get there. It's a pretty complicated deck to sequence, and it's also not the easiest deck to build. So I know there's been a lot of Dialga lists out there, but this is pretty new with the Lost Zone involved. So you'll see they did really well against Lost Box. They went 1, 2, 3, 4-0 versus Lost Box. And note that we have Marco Cifuentes and Alex Szymanski being 2 of the Lost Boxes, and they're both good players. So that goes a long way when you're taking note of hitting good players in online events. Lost to a Goodra, a Lost Zone Goodra. Lost to Arceus Giratina. Lost to Other. And then finally lost to Mew VMAX in top 8. I actually just took this deck for a spin on PTCGO. The first thing I hit was Mew, and I won. So, 100% win rate. So I don't actually know if the Mew matchup is good or bad. I just thought it was funny that I saw that it lost to Mew, and I was like, oh, let's take this onto the ladder. I hit Mew, and then I beat it, and then I essentially did not get my question answered because I have a small sample size, and I'm also looking at their 1-game sample size as well, so I'll have to do more research on that. I think the Dialga V-Star is very good. Then we have AI, and this list hurts me, because, okay, so we have Double Path to the Peak with Radiant Gardevoir, which I've been seeing a lot. I'm not just singling this person out, I've been seeing it a lot, and I get it. That's not my problem with the list. My problem with the list is Starmie V. So we all played Starmie V at NAIC in AI. Like everybody that played AI. Steven Varesco top 8'd with it. I know somebody else top 8'd with a list that was more like the Milwaukee list, and they didn't play Starmie, but Starmie V was like the most useless card it at NAIC, I feel, and it's even more useless now. Like, I don't know why it's in this list. It's bad against Kyurem because they're going to discard their energy to one-shot your Arceus, right? It's bad against Giratina because they send energy to the Lost Zone or they pop you for a 2 energy attack. It's bad against the Lost Boxes because you don't want to purposely attack with a V Pokemon that's weaker than your V Star. I guess it's good if people don't know what's in your deck, and it defeats the purpose in an online event because they automatically know it's in your deck. So I don't know about the Starmie. Let's look at their matchups. They went 1, 2, 3, 4. They went 3-1 versus Lost Box. They went 2-1 versus Palkia Inteleon, 0-1 versus Kyurem. Quad, you could also include Quad Cram. Let's see what this Radiant Charizard Inteleon deck was all about real quick. Oh, okay, they're playing towards Worlds deck with Vikavolt and Ludicolo. My undiagnosed ADHD is kicking in big time during this video. So that's the AI that got 3rd. I do want to look at the AI that got 10th because I like this list better. I'm still not sold on playing 70 HP Sobbles, but I'll give it a go. I like double Big Charm and Big Parasol. I like the stadium split in this list a lot. Lost City is really cool. This list feels like it looks like on first glance. I've checked the statistics. It looks like on first glance that this is going to be worse against Mew VMAX, but I think it might be fine versus Mew VMAX, right? Because we've got Radiant Gardevoir, and so let's say we have Radiant Gardevoir bench, we Big Charm our Arceus, and we Path to the Peak them. If they bump the Path, our Radiant Gardevoir is working again, and now our Arceus has 310 HP with Big Charm, and they have to do 330 for a one-hit knockout. We can even consider tossing in a one-of Lake Acuity into this deck to bring it up to 350 for a one-hit knockout, but I don't know if that is specific to the Mew matchup. So Mew goes, assuming it's Pokestop Mew, and they have double turbo on at all times, so they do 220 with double turbo belt, and then 4 tablets is 340. So with 3 tablets, they swing 310, and Gardevoir prevents that from being a knockout. When it would typically be a knockout with belt 3 tablets, Big Charm, which happened to me twice in Baltimore. I think it's not uncommon for them to just be able to have 3 tablets because Pokestop Mew just burns through the deck. So yeah, I don't think this is bad against Mew, actually, as it may look at first glance, since it's slower on path and there's no Drapion or anything. But I can talk about AI all day, so why don't we move on to the top 2 decks. Kyurem Palkia got 2nd here with a 3-2 line of Kyurem VMAX. I have been partial to the 3-3 line myself, but because I typically evolve 2 Kyurem VMAXs just about every game. And when I'm doing that, I like to have 3 in the deck, because then I'll find my first one easier, and then I don't have to worry about prizing, and I can also discard one at some point if I need to for a quick ball or ultra ball. They play Crobat, they play double Empoleon. Double Empoleon's great as long as the entire meta of Lost Boxes aren't countering your Empoleons. I'm not sure. There's a 1 card difference between their deck and my deck. Actually, 2 card difference. I play 2 Rotom Phone, and that's where my 3rd Kyurem VMAX comes in at, and I don't hate that, but I also play Roxanne. And I also play a 3rd Ultra Ball, so there's a couple differences. Also, by the way, I think Lumineon plus Cheryl is very interesting in this deck, but Lumineon also is just good because you only play 2 boss, and if you're playing Roxanne, that's a supporter that you often want to search out with Lumineon anyway. And now, let's take a look at the matchups real quick. So this person went on a tear. They beat essentially everything. and then lost to Vikavolt, and then beat Tina, lost Goodra, AI, and then Mew VMAX. So actually, I don't think we looked at this Vikavolt yet. I think the Vikavolt list is built well. It has Drapion to help with Mew. I feel like this is bad against Kyurem, but if you item lock them and like they are forced to bench like Palkias or they start Inteleon, that's probably going to be awful for them. Yeah. So this list is very dope. I was trying something similar. But I was really battling with myself whether I wanted to play Mew Celebrations or a more item based build like this is, because Mew Celebrations is getting turned off by Inteleon, but Empoleon's really there to turn off Comfy, so I never like to play something that takes collateral damage into a developing metagame. But yeah, the Vikavolt's cool, and let's look at Mew VMAX. This Mew VMAX deck went 15-1 out of 654 people. They lost once to Kyurem, and then they got their revenge in the finals. They went 2-1 versus Kyurem. They went 1, 2, 3-0 versus Lost Box. This person has the Lost Box matchup down. 1-0 versus Reggie, 1-0 versus Urshi, 1-0 versus Hisui and Zoroark, 1-0 versus Palkia Inteleon. They just hit the smorgasbord board of decks here. 1-0 versus Tina, 1-0 in the mirror, 2-0 versus Arceus Goodra, and then 1-0 versus Dialga V-Star as well. Now, on my first pass over, I don't believe there was anything unique. I guess Roxanne is unique, but I understand it with 4 Rotom phones and Palpad and Cramomatics. Yeah, I'm not sure. Oh, the Switch cart is actually super interesting. The Switch cart's actually super interesting because you can heal like a Genesect or something. And that can be that 30 damage can mean a lot versus like Sableye and Cramorant. And they do play their own Path to the Peak. And so the Path to the Peak, I believe, is to shut off Drapion and go like Roxanne Path against something that plays Drapion, but you can also Roxanne Path the mirror, and how busted is that? I'll answer, very busted. So that's the first place Mew VMAX deck, and that is the Limitless Showdown of September. So let me know if there was anything else I could have covered better, and I will try to help you out in the comments down below. But thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.